The National Labour Commission is in a crunch meeting with both the Ghana Medical Association and government to listen to the concerns of both parties in the ongoing impasse over doctors' conditions of service. Both sides presented their cases separately and are now held up in a meeting to determine the way forward following a statement from the GMA that sought to call the bluff of government. Are the parties too entrenched in their positions that it is hurting the process of negotiation? This is today's big story with me, Stephen Enti. And representatives of government are in a kind of arbitration meeting with the National Labour Commission to resolve pending conditions of service issues which have resulted in a doctor strike which has dragged on for 3 weeks now. Today, the Ghana Medical Association issued a statement which raised several issues, including threats to its members from government communicators and some persons in management position. The GMA says that it's going to do everything possible to protect its members. Earlier, in an interview with Joy News, the GMA called the bluff of government over its decision to cut off the salaries of doctors if they do not return to work.
We'll go back to the workplace when we have conditions of service duly negotiated and signed. We are saying this because that forms the very basis of our engagement with the employer. If we go back today, what is the basis for our relationship with the employer at that set time that we are present? We are saying that it is conditions of service or no work.
The deadline they gave expires tomorrow. Will you still stay out of work?
Our position is simple. No conditions of service, no work. Deadline or no deadline, that is not our business.
And the threat is to withdraw your salaries or cut your employment?
Look, the least of us in terms of our rankings, the lowest, who are the house officers. You all know, recently, they were not paid for 11 months and they survived. We will not go hungry.
Tell us about this meeting with the NLC today.
Well, we are just going, as we speak, we don't know of any particular thing they want to discuss with us. As and when we go, we'll know the details of whatever they have to tell us, and if it requires that we also give some responses, I'm sure we'll do that.
The GMA leadership have been meeting today. What has been occupying your minds?
We are meeting with some senior people in the society who think that it is better to solve the issues than all the name calling as we are getting from people who are into propaganda. So basically, we are here meeting them. They also want to understand the issues, and I must tell you, some of them are even very surprised at what they are hearing, because all that has been fed them probably I have truths or no truth at all.
Who are these influential persons or eminent persons you talk about?
Well, we can't name, but in some we can say the National House of Chiefs, for instance. Yeah.
Are they asking you to call off the strike?
Well, we won't discuss what we have discussed with them. We cannot put that in the public domain.
Right, so let's quickly run through the Ghana Medical Association statement, which was issued and signed by Dr. Kwabena Opoku-Duse, who is the president, and Dr. Frank Cerebro, who is the General Secretary. The GMA in a statement raised some issues. Number one, the allegations of divisions in the GMA. The association says this is a deliberate attempt by their detractors to create division on the front, and also raise key issue number two, threats to its members. It says there have been various threats to our members since this industrial action started. Indeed, some government communicators have openly on radio asked armed robbers to attack doctors, detailing the addresses of the whereabouts of these doctors, where these doctors live. No government official, they claim, have come out to condemn this action. There are about 4 items on this statement. I'll read that later. But I'm told that Kwete Nate, our reporter Kwete Nate, who is covering the arbitration meeting between the Ghana Medical Association and the Labour Commission, is online now. Kwete, good evening.
Good evening.
I know you've been waiting all afternoon through the evening to get this ongoing. What can you tell us from where you are?
Steve, for the past 4 hours, the GMA and government have been locked in a crunch meeting. What I gathered from my sources inside was that earlier, government was made to present its case separately, and the GMA was also made to present its case separately. But information I'm picking up is that the GMA has to put together a document on the acquisition service. I also picked up that the list has also asking the doctors to call off their strike, and government is also being asked to work on 2 key proposals being made by the doctors, and these are information I've picked up. I'm still waiting. They are still in a meeting. They've been making consultations, so I'm waiting for a public declaration on what has been ongoing for the past 4 hours at the Labour Commission here.
All right, so are you able to tell us particularly which representatives are there, which GMA representative, which government representatives are in this arbitration meeting?
I saw Dr. Kwabena Poku Eduse, the president of the GMA. I saw Dr. Yankson. Government is being represented by the Minister of Health, Alex Segesia. I don't know about the Labour Commission, but I do understand that the case is being arbitrated by some commissioners here at the Labour Commission.
Right, thanks very much, Kwete Nate, there, reporting from the offices of the National Labour Commission, where doctors are meeting government officials in a mediation meeting, which is arbitration meeting, I beg your pardon, which is being led by the Labour Commission. I was earlier reading through the statements that have come from the Ghana Medical Association over the past, during the period they've been on strike. And I must say that we'll be getting onto the telephone line to speak to the chairman of the the coalition of NGOs on health, who has some issues on the matter at hand. Let me continue reading a bit of the statement that came forward. The GMA, I said earlier, raised concerns about threats to its members, and it says that the association takes these threats very seriously and are putting in all the necessary measures to ensure safety of its members. And we're told that a formal complaint have been filed in the Ashanti region to this effect, as there are credible information of threats against particular specific members. Gabriel Benaku is chairman of the coalition of NGOs. Is joining us now. Mr. Benaku, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
I know we've been back and forth this issue for the past 3 weeks, and it does appear that both parties have an entrenched position which is hindering negotiation. Do you see it that way?
Yeah, I think good evening to your viewers and listeners. We have appealed to both parties to deal with the issue in a more humane and professional way, instead of give and take and moving around the ball. And we are still taking this opportunity to appeal to them that this issue can be easily resolved and managed properly. That this strike issue should create an opportunity for a holistic national policy on the public sector health workers. And this issue will create the opportunity for us to test our leaders to see how they are ready to serve this country. And so, yes, it's something that is very worrisome, and the coalition of NGOs is not happy about it. We think that the issue can best be resolved rather than this entrenched positions by the two parties.
Now, it does appear that both sides are are at each other's neck. I mean, if we look at the statements that was released by the Ghana Medical Association today, it addresses key issues, including threats to some of its members. Do you think that perhaps things are getting out of hand at this stage, where we're told, the GMA is telling us that government communicators have been announcing residential addresses of some of their members and inviting armed thugs to go attack them?
Yeah, that's why I'm saying that we should deal with the matter more professionally than the piecemeal approach that we are approaching now. And I hope the ministers are listening, and I hope the GMA are also listening. On the media, we should be mindful of the words that we choose and the posters that we post to present the matter. Everybody knows that once in negotiation, you cannot embark on strike. That everybody knows that. It's a common law, we all know. But there are issues leading to this strike. And it's also a known fact that the employer have frustrated the employees on that. So these are the two issues. Now, the two parties, as we continue to plead with them, is please let's get a neutral environment and let's deal with the matter and stop the politicization and stop the intimidation and stop the attack on radio or TV. It will never get us there. The approaches that the ministry are using, every employer will always want to find alternatives, and that's fine. The approaches that GMA is using, every employee will also want to get the best for whatever he works for. There's the need for the orange to be split into halves or to be splitted and squeeze the water for the one who wants the water, and then the one who wants the pills, and then the other one who wants the seeds to now take. And that is why we have not been able to diagnose, because it's an orange issue. And we continue to say that please stop the...
We're grateful for your time on today's big story. So we've been going through some of the doctors' issues at hand, and I've told you that there is a crunch meeting between the Ghana Medical Association and the National Labour Commission and government representatives trying to chart a new course and find a lasting solution to the matter before them, the impasse over their conditions of service. So we'll move the discussion further. Also tonight, the ruling National Democratic Congress has dismissed demands by the opposition New Patriotic Party for the Electoral Commission to draw up a new voters register. The NPP claims it has evidence that 76,000 foreigners are on Ghana's voters register, but the NDC insists the NPP's request for a new register is neither here nor there.
They know they have lost talency, so they are finding soft landing grounds. So they want to prepare the minds of Ghanaians that something wrong is happening in talency, so that in the end, when they lose, they have somebody to blame. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what MPP has been engaged in since 2012. They know that they are about to lose 2016, which will represent the third loss of a political party in a row. And they shudder to think about the consequences. If somebody should go to Time and take the picture, you don't even need to go to Time, because MPP is in possession of the 2012 voters register. If they look through, pick my picture, and then put it on another document and call that and write there Benin, and then put my face there and put some number there which means nothing, and then begin telling everybody that I said Dunkatia is a Beninois. How are you going to prove or disprove this? You understand? So we are convinced beyond any doubt that the MPP deliberately manufactured this lie to justify unfounded calls by them and their surrogates for a new voters register. A cursory assessment of the claims reveal a desperate attempt by a party bedeviled with strife, deep division, violence, and general lawlessness to prepare the grounds for a rejection of their imminent defeat in the 2016 elections. It is the latest installment in a series of efforts to shift blame onto others whenever their incompetent and mediocre campaign bring them defeat at elections. In our view, ladies and gentlemen, the press conference address by Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia bore an uncanny resemblance to the hoopla that preceded their filing of a petition at the Supreme Court purporting to challenge the validity of the victory chalked by President John Dramani Mahama and the NDC in the 2012 elections.
Right, Johnson Esiedun Ketiada, General Secretary of the ruling NDC. Let's get onto the telephone line. Dr. Amin Al-Hassan is Senior Scholar at the Ghana Institute of Governance and Security. He joins us now. Prof, good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening.
We're grateful you could join us. Now, I know that you wanted to comment on the issue involving the doctors and the implication generally on our country and governance, really. So a quick comment from you, and then we'll move into the discussions with the NDC and the MPP.
Well, I think with our doctors, I think realistically, GMA is not realizing very soon that it has done a lot of damage to its corporate image as a very respected labor organization representing doctors. And their belligerent posturing and also responded in kind by government is not doing any good for us as a country. And I think that GMA really needs to do a lot of thinking of its strategy of negotiating with government by understanding that fundamentally we live in a country of law and that you can go on strike and expect to have a negotiation table. So now that they are at arbitration, I think that we are hoping and expecting that the eminent persons that have intervened to talk to them will find a way out to get them to understand that at the minimum, they are more or less a humanitarian organization as well. Much as they are a labor union, they are also a professional organization.
Right.
And for many Ghanaians, there are ethical questions being raised about their posturing and their belligerence. And that at the minimum, if there is even one debt that is accounted for by their actions, Ghanaians feel that this is an ethically wrong position that the GMA has taken. And I think that it is very important that the rank and file of the GMA come out to talk to their leadership.
Right, so you are in support of them going back to the negotiation table, returning to work, and then opening the opportunity for government to negotiate with them on a fair platform.
Yes.
Right, so Doc, let's now talk about the issue the MPP brought out. The MPP is alleging that its research has uncovered up to about 76,000 Togolese nationals whose names, identities are captured in Ghana's electoral register. The NDC, on the other hand, feels that this evidence the MPP is presenting means absolutely nothing. So the key issue for us now is, should we or should we not go for a new voters register ahead of the elections in 2016, looking at the posturing of these two major political parties?
Well, I think that realistically speaking, the NPP has presented evidence that is to be verified. And the timing, can we as a country at this stage go in for a new voters register? Now, the other issue is that if there are ghost names on the register, is a new electoral voters register the only solution to this problem? And I think that we should wait for the outcome of the verification by the Electoral Commission about these claims. And even if they are true, will that warrant a new register at this stage? I think that most likely it is not the best way to go. What we really need to take off is how to clean the register at this stage. If they have evidence of the wrong people being on the register, that evidence can be used to clean the electoral, the voters register. Whatever caused the adulteration of the register, we cannot preclude that even if we were to go for a new voters register. There is no guarantee that if we have time and money to do this, we will still come out with the cleanest voters register. And I think that is the issue. That what is the guarantee that should we go for a new register, we will come out with a clean one?
Right.
And I think,
yeah.
Realistically speaking, the options on the table are not that many.
Basically,
even if the evidence is true, we are not likely to go for a new register.
We're not likely to go for a new register. That's very emphatic. I'll have you hold, Dr. Lassan, and go to Dr. Agri Dako, who is a political analyst. He's also joining us. Dr. Dako, yesterday when you joined our discussion on the same matter, what became obvious was that the MPP has put an issue on the table, and definitely we were expecting the NDC to respond. That's the response and the way it came. I mean, Johnson Essiedu Nketia completely, I wouldn't say rubbished, but made insignificance of the evidence that the MPP has put on the table, and says that when subjected to verification, the evidence will evaporate. Your quick comment before we move into the details.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm a political scientist of the University of Ghana, Lagos.
Yes, sir.
So, fine. I mean, in a democracy, there is something we call one key thing, that democratic imperative that I always refer to. That those who are affected by a decision must have a way of influencing that decision. It's a democratic imperative, which, for me, also will apply, to our circumstances. If you look at it critically, since the inception of the Fourth Republic, we've moved along certain trajectories. We have undertaken a number of reforms. And of course, if you look at the very definition of reforms, one of the leading lies with
right. I think that
in a very definition of reforms that some people would definitely work there. You understand?
Yeah.
Anytime you want to change a system, it calls for a lot of dialogue. But when you are looking at something as critical as a voters register, you expect that the various stakeholders may take certain positions.
But Dr. Lassan just said a while ago that we don't have the time and the luxury to go through with the process of a new voters register. I mean, looking at how short the time is to elections 2016.
Well, I mean, when did we prepare the biometric register? We prepared it, I think, the very year within which we were having the elections also. I'm not too sure, but we have to cross-check. So, but what I think is that, well, that is the position of the MPP. And of course, as was expected, the NDC has also reacted that it's much ado about nothing. And perhaps there are allegations, or the various comments they made and the various allegations they leveled against the system are actually underpinned by ignorance, so to speak. We need a healthy debate as to what should be the way forward. If you look at it critically, throughout the Fourth Republic, under the Fourth Republic, most of the reforms have been consensus driven, and that is why in 1994 the EC, in its own wisdom, put in place the IPAC. That is where a lot of consultations are done. I mean, for the various parties taking entrenched positions, I mean, I don't think it's a new development.
Right.
Whenever you have seen a party in power, there is a tendency for the party in power to insist that the status quo, should be maintained. And then you also will find out that the opposition party will almost always kick against the status quo and think that certain reforms must be undertaken and so on. And this applies to both NDC and NPP,
and the MPP, because
they have had the opportunity to govern this nation.
Dr. Gridako,
but we must look at the larger national interest, and that is why I'm saying that the reform, whatever suggestion that might come, and whatever reform that will be undertaken must be consensus driven. So at the end of the day, the overall national interest, not just the political party.
And you support the process. You support the process of the MPP going through the inter-party advisory committee for the other political players to also have a say and input into whether
why not?
Or not.
I mean, that is why I indicated that this democratic imperative is that those who are affected by a decision must have a way of influencing that decision. So I am not in favor of just rubbishing what any political party would say. What it means is that they must go back to the round table with major stakeholders in there, look at the merit of whatever they have presented, and then we look at the way forward.
Right.
I believe that the overall national interest will be served when it is consensus driven. Yeah.
Thanks very much, Dr. Agri Daku is a political science lecturer at the University of Ghana, Lagos. We still have Dr. Amin Al-Hassan on the line. So, Doc, there are those who say that, the NDC in particular, say that the posturing of the MPP is a kind of psychological strategy to prepare the minds of its followers for 2016. The event it loses, then it can go on to make a strong case that the electoral register was incurably flawed. Your thoughts on that?
No, I think if you look at the overall statement of the MPP on the NDC, it looks like politically the NDC has taken the bigger advantage in terms of trying to poo-poo the position of the MPP. And I also think that, strategically speaking, and for the interest of the MPP, the statement they issued and the idea that they were targeting only Volta region and the Bronx region itself do not really go well for the party's political fortune if they are intending to expand their electoral fortune in the next election. The impression definitely sent out is that they are targeting these two regions because of the position of the NDP in those regions. And I think that politically speaking, if you look at overall net effect, the NDP has done well in taking advantage of the current situation more than the NPP. And the NPP haven't gone through. This is how they started with the election petition, with this talk of evidence and all that, and they have repeated the same thing. And we know what happened then. And I think Nketia has been very strategic and very fast to take advantage by leveraging on that existing discourse to say that the NPP is its own game. And I think it's not really helpful to the NPP, and they should have thought through this before coming out to make this particular claim.
Right. Dr. Amin Al-Hassan, we are grateful for your time. On today's big story, Dr. Amin Al-Hassan is senior scholar at the Ghana Institute of Governance and Security. Now, news just coming in, the MPP has issued a statement to react to some of the comments by Johnson Asiedu Nketia, the NDC, which held a press conference today. We don't have a lot of time to run through all of that, but the MPP is seeking to set the record straight and has raised about 5 points which it's addressing. I'll read just a couple. Proportion of population in the register. The NPP is saying that Dr. Bawumia did not make adjustment for population growth between 2010 and 2012. Unadjusted, the percentage of the register is to the population is 56.2%. Dr. Bawumia did the adjustment to 54% to account for the population growth. This is still way over the 50% mark. I think this is in reaction to a comment by Johnson Asiedu Nketia that there were some anomalies. There were some anomalies with the figures that Dr. Bawumia put out, and they also go on to give a second point, singling out Volta region. The statement said, Asiedu Nketia asserts that Dr. Bawumia singled out Volta region constituencies for the alarming increase in Volta population between 2008 and 2012, and that this was a sign of the MPP's, quote, disrespect and disdain for certain tribes. The party says this is entirely false, and it has gone on to give explanations for that. My name is Stephen Anti, and we were unable to go to Kwetenate, who is at the meeting with the Ghana Medical Association and government over the doctor's strike on pass. We'll be following up on that more closely on our news later at 8 p.m. My name is Stephen Anti. That's where we end. Up next is Joe News Interactive.